revealed how one cleaning lady found the amazing solution in 2 minutes that 11 lawyers missed. Maria walked into the gleaming law firm downtown, her heart heavy with sadness and responsibility. The polished floors reflected her unwavering dedication as she tied her apron, preparing for another long day. Life had changed drastically since her husband, a war veteran, was killed in action. She now juggled multiple jobs, desperate to provide for her 2 children. Each stroke of the duster felt like a reminder of the dreams they had, a safe, happy family where laughter echoed through their home. But now, silence reigned. With every wipe, Maria daydreamed of a world where her children had the futures they deserved, filled with stability and opportunity. Her back ached, and her eyes were tired, but she pressed on, fueled by love. On that fateful afternoon, while dusting an old, cluttered bookshelf, a file slipped from the shelf and landed at her feet. Intrigued, Maria picked it up and opened it. Her heart raced. Inside was critical evidence regarding a lawsuit for the community that had been dragging through the courts. Seized with curiosity, her mind raced with possibilities. Was this the fight her town needed? Before she could digest the information, fear trickled in. What if she stepped out of her prescribed role and was ridiculed? Her children believed she was just a cleaning lady, just another cog in the wheel. They wanted her to remain safe, maintaining a stable home for them, not stirring the pot. But this was bigger than her. It was about justice for people like them. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Embarking on a journey that echoed with the sacrifices her husband had made, Maria finally found the courage to speak to one of the lawyers. But her intentions were met with mocking skepticism. Just a cleaning lady, they whispered, looking right through her. Their dismissal ignited a fire within her, reminding Maria of her own worth, the worth of every person in the community who felt disempowered. Days turned into restless nights, yet her conviction grew stronger. Summoning every ounce of her spirit, she stood in the community hall, heart pounding in her chest. Her voice trembled but rang clear against the walls, revealing the evidence she'd discovered. You could hear the collective gasp, the sharp intake of air as face after face turned to her, expressions morphing from confusion to curiosity. Would they rally behind her, or would they dismiss her again? In that pivotal moment, she confronted the very people who underestimated her. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, whispers growing louder, a mix of admiration and anger. With her children watching from the side, she took a deep breath and boldly challenged the town's elite to reconsider their views on what a cleaning lady could be. The air buzzed with uncertainty, and as Maria stood at the precipice of change, the question hung over her head: would her fight for justice also bring her children closer to understanding who she truly was? With the townsfolk divided, both supporting and resisting her plea, Maria was now intertwined with the community's destiny. Hope and fear swirled in her heart, leaving them all anxiously awaiting what would unfold next. The murmur in the crowd intensified. Maria's heart raced as she faced a sea of uncertain expressions. Some seemed drawn to her words, while others remained skeptical, their brows furrowed in doubt. She could almost feel the weight of their skepticism pressing against her, but she held her ground, determined to speak for the voiceless, a role she never expected to take on. What I'm saying is real. Maria's voice broke through the anxiety surrounding her. She clenched her fists, hoping her determination would resonate. These files hold truth about the lawsuit that's been crippling our community. We can't let the big names in this town keep us silent. A young man in the front row, a community member she recognized as a single father, stepped forward. How do we know you're not just making it up? You're just a cleaner, right? What do you know about lawyers or lawsuits? Anger boiled within her, but she could see the flicker of doubt in his eyes. He was scared, just like her. I know enough to see where the injustice lies, she shouted back, her voice carrying a weight that silenced the crowd. I've seen people lose their homes, their lives, because they can't fight back against the system that's rigged against us. It's time we stand together. The chatter shifted, and a few familiar faces among the crowd nodded in agreement. Maria took a breath, steadying her nerves. It was now or never. What if I told you this evidence could turn things around? She demanded, scanning the crowd for support. What if it's the key to helping our neighbors get the justice they deserve? Show us. An older woman called from the back, her voice shaky but resolute. Maria's heart lifted at the flicker of hope sparking. With trembling hands, Maria pulled the file from her bag and held it high. The sunlight glinted off the thick paper, highlighting the name of the firm involved. This could show how they've kept us trapped, she declared, her voice clearer now. They never expected a cleaning lady to find this. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Let us see it." Hope pushed through the uncertainty. Now was the moment to reveal everything. As Maria began to unfold the contents of the file, revealing the evidence that had been hidden for too long, she felt raw with emotion. Memories of her husband flooded her, his strength, his courage. If he were here, would he stand beside her? She could almost hear his encouragement echoing in her mind, propelling her onward. One by one, people stepped closer. The skepticism began to fade. Murmurs swirled as she displayed emails and documents that detailed unfair practices, the community's pain laid bare before them. When she finished, silence enveloped the room. Eyes were widened. Some seemed angry, others impressed. Maria's heart pounded in her chest. She had crossed a line, opened a door. Would they walk through with her, or would they turn away? But before she could even feel triumph, a voice cut through the silence. We need to confront them. We can't let them get away with this anymore. The energy shifted. Unsure hands reached out. Others formed fists of determination. For the first time in years, Maria felt unity coalesce around her. The townspeople weren't just watching anymore, they were ready to join her fight. Would they summon the courage to confront the formidable opposition? As hope surged within her, the weight of responsibility loomed larger than ever. Maria knew this was just the beginning, and the road ahead would be paved with challenges. Even so, she couldn't help but feel a sense of possibility. Perhaps their plight could inspire change. As the crowd began to murmur amongst themselves, planning the next steps, Maria caught sight of her children watching wide-eyed from the back of the hall. She smiled at them, filled with a mix of warmth and apprehension. They were witnessing their mother step into her power. Little did she know, the hardest battles were yet to come, and just around the corner lay a revelation that would challenge everything she believed. Would the strength of the community prove strong enough to make a difference against the elite? With her heart pounding and anticipation swirling, Maria realized her journey had only just begun. A swell of energy pulsed through the room, the murmurs echoing off the walls as hope mixed with determination. Maria stood firm, her heart racing as she absorbed the excitement around her. They were ready, she thought. The community was rallying, not just a gathering of voices, but a chorus of commitment. "All right," Maria said, her voice rising over the chatter. "We team up against this. It won't be easy, but if we stand united, we can break this silence." Encouragement surrounded her, faces lighting up with enthusiasm. People began stepping forward, eager to share their thoughts. The emotions in the air were palpable, creating an electric atmosphere. Maria felt a flicker of joy blooming within her as she listened to their ideas, their stories tied to the pain in each document she had shared. A woman named Linda, a local bakery owner, raised her hand. "What's our first step? We can't just sit here and talk." "Yes, we need to take action," another voice shouted, emboldening the room further. Before long, they had formed small groups. Some discussed how to reach out to the press, while others came up with ideas to gather more evidence. A few strong-willed folks even suggested a rally in front of the law firm. Each suggestion pulsed like a heartbeat, making every person feel more alive. But amid all the excitement, doubt flickered behind Maria's thoughts. Organizing a rally? Confronting the law firm's elite lawyers? Could they truly make a dent? She had spent so long as a cleaner, invisible in a world that valued success over struggle. She needed to ensure their determination would last, that their fire wouldn't fizzle out when faced with opposition. "Listen," Maria began, her voice steadying as their attention turned back to her. "I know it's scary, but we must stay focused. We can't give up when they come at us with everything they have. We're fighting for our homes, our families." Her voice caught momentarily. "For everything." Chins lifted, and eyes sparkled with a shared vision. For a moment, time hung in the air like a hush before a storm. Maria felt comforted by the warmth of her neighbors. They could be heroes, together. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from outside, pulling everyone's attention. The crowd rushed to the windows, anxious murmurs spilling from their lips. Marianne's heart raced as she joined them. Outside, she saw a line of cars pull up, sleek and polished, exuding an air of authority. Men in suits stepped out, their faces hard and unyielding, and behind them, a sign read Elite Law Group. "They're here," whispered a voice. Fear crept among the crowd, shattering the hope they had just built. "Stay calm," Maria called out, her voice shaking only slightly. "This is our moment. They want to silence us, but we have the truth." Yet her own resolve flickered. Did they truly have the strength needed? She could see the uncertainty reflecting in the eyes of her neighbors. As the lawyers approached, Maria's breath hitched. Her gut churned, but she remembered the evidence in the folder, the promises they had made to one another. They had chosen to fight, after all. She turned to her children, still standing at the back, and saw their wide eyes watching hers. They needed to know she was brave. "Together," Maria shouted, gripping the edges of the table before her. "This is our fight." But as she spoke, an unexpected figure emerged from the group of lawyers, a face she recognized all too well. It was Hector, her former boss, the one who had let her go last year. Memories of betrayal rushed back, igniting something fierce inside her. "Hector," she murmured, dread creeping in. He knew her story. He knew their secrets. Would he undermine everything she was trying to build? With his arrival, Maria felt the weight of her mission double. The battle would not only be against a powerful law firm, but also a man who once held her dreams in his hands. What secrets lay hidden behind his piercing eyes? She needed to find out. As the crowd braced for confrontation, Maria's heart quickened again. Was she truly prepared for the clash that awaited? Would the community stand behind her when the past threatened to unravel everything? With emotions swirling, one thing was clear. Everything depended on what happened next. Maria's heart raced as she locked eyes with Hector. It was like staring at thunderclouds, dark and threatening. The crowd shifted uneasily, wondering why this familiar face had stepped into their moment of courage. "Hector," she called out, her voice loud enough to cut through the murmurs. "What are you doing here?" His expression was unreadable, a mix of condescension and amusement. He stepped forward, surveying the crowd with a look that could peel paint off the wall. Well, Maria. Looks like you've gathered quite a little army." "Enough of the games," she replied, trying to hold on to her composure. "Why are you here? Are you here to intimidate us?" The crowd grew quiet, all eyes darting between them, sensing the tension thickening in the air. Hector smirked, an unsettling smile that reminded her of the betrayal that had forced her into this position. "Intimidate? No. I'm here to remind you of reality. You think your stories will stand against the Elite Law Group? We have resources, connections, power." A wave of dismay rippled through the community. Maria could see doubt flickering in her neighbor's eyes again, the determination from before beginning to dim. "Don't listen to him," she shouted, her voice steady despite the storm churning inside her. "We have the truth on our side. We can't be ignored." "Truth?" Hector laughed, a short, cold sound that felt like ice. "What truth? No lawyer would take your case seriously. Do you really think you can take on seasoned professionals?" His voice carried a venomous tone, darkening the faces around her. Maria's heart raced, desperation threatening to chip away at her resolve. But then she glanced at her children, standing behind her. Their eyes glimmered with hope, and that ignited something inside her. "Hector," she said, her voice low but fierce, "you may have pushed me down once, but I've risen again. And I'm not alone. We're standing." She gestured to the crowd around her, all of us. The members of her community began to murmur, their voices gaining strength as they felt her resolve. With each word spoken, she saw their confidence creeping back, just at the edge of fear. "Listen," Maria said, "this isn't just about us. It's about standing together for anyone who has ever felt overlooked, stepped on, and dismissed like yesterday's trash. We might not have your ivory tower to fight from, but we have something you can't buy. The truth, our lives, our families." Hector stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "And what do you think will happen next? Do you really believe that kind of talk will scare us?" "What is really scary?" she shot back, her heart pounding, is a system that thinks it can silence people just because they don't have a fancy title or a fat wallet. The air between them crackled with a potent mix of tension and determination. The crowd began to cheer, their voices lifting like wings, a soaring blend of hope and rage. "For our homes," someone shouted, and it was echoed, resonating through the room like music, a battle cry rising against injustice. But even as Maria fueled the fire, doubt gnawed at her insides. Would this brave show of unity last? Could they withstand what was to come? She could feel her own resolve waver, teetering on the edge of uncertainty. As she stood there, caught between Hector and the community, dread washed over her. Was this truly the beginning of something great, or was it merely the first step into a trap she could not escape? Then, out of the blue, a new voice rang out from the back. "What about the evidence? The documents she has? We have the truth." The crowd fell silent, all eyes turning to Maria with an urgency that made her pulse quicken. At that moment, clarity struck her. Could that evidence be the key, the hidden piece she and T considered as the ultimate weapon? Maria turned to Hector, a spark igniting in her chest. "You don't know what I have," she countered, a newfound strength building in her voice. What if there really is something here that changes everything? The challenge hung heavy in the air, charged with the weight of her question. As the crowd leaned in closer, the stakes rose higher than ever before. And just then, Maria realized, what if she had been holding the answer all along? Would she be able to unlock the truth they needed before it was too late? Maria's heart pounded in her chest. The hush that enveloped the crowd felt electric. What if she really had what it took? Her fingers trembled, reaching for the worn folder tucked under her arm. It was just a collection of papers, scribbled notes, and a few printouts that had seemed insignificant until now. "I have evidence," she said, her voice loud and unwavering, carrying across the tense atmosphere. "Evidence that shows the truth behind the elite law group's manipulations." Hector's face twisted into a mask of contempt. "And what are those papers compared to the power of my firm?" he taunted. "They're real," Maria declared. "They tell a story. The story of betrayal, of greed, and of you." Slowly, she stepped forward, her feet moving with purpose. The thrill of adrenaline surged through her, drowning out the doubt lurking in her mind. "Listen to her," someone shouted from the back. "She's right. We deserve to be heard." A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd, igniting the fire within them once more. Maria felt the warmth of their support, mingling with her rising confidence. This was a chance. This could be their rallying point. "Show us," another voice yelled. And that was it. The pressure was on. With trembling hands, she opened the folder, the crinkled papers whispering secrets into the air. This is the timeline," she said, holding up the first document, a timeline of events surrounding the questionable practices of Hector's firm. "Every small detail connects the pieces. We weren't just mistreated, we were targeted." Hector stepped forward, anger flashing in his eyes. "Don't fall for her theatrics. It's all smoke and mirrors." But the crowd murmured among themselves, their expressions shifting from skepticism to a glimmer of hope. Maria knew she couldn't back down now. She clenched her fists around the papers, feeling the waves of anticipation wash over her. "Every document, every word counts," she continued passionately. "The same company that promised us support turned its back the moment we were vulnerable. Look here," she pointed emphatically at a page. "This formal complaint went ignored. They thought they could silence us, but we've documented every instance. You can't silence the truth." The crowd began to stir. She sensed something building inside them, an energy that mixed disbelief with determination. Hector's bravado was slipping. She could see the cracks in his facade. But then, like a shadow creeping back, doubt clawed at her heart. What if her evidence wasn't enough? What if this was the end of the line? Maria took a deep breath, grounding herself in the chaos swirling around her. She had to be brave. "You're not just fighting for your homes. You're fighting for your dignity," she shouted, and the crowd erupted with supportive cries. But Hector wasn't done yet. With a piercing glare, he tried to wield intimidation as his weapon. "You think that flimsy piece of paper means anything? They will crush you. You're nothing but a cleaning lady playing with ideas far beyond your reach." Her stomach twisted at his words. "No," she countered, the fire coming alive again. "Not just a cleaning lady. I'm a voice for all of us. And then, there came a moment of silence, heavy and loaded like a thunderstorm waiting to burst. The crowd leaned forward, their faces lit with a potent mix of anxiety and hope. Suddenly, a voice pierced through the tension, she's telling the truth. Do you remember what happened at the meeting last year? That one statement ignited a chorus of yes. And we remember. The realization swept over them like a wave, pushing back Hector's dark presence, washing over their fears. Maria looked at Hector, feeling the shift around her. If they could rally together, if these people united behind a common cause, they had a chance. Are you ready to stand with me? She urged, scanning the crowd. Their faces reflected her determination, transformed from uncertain to resolute. Yes, they shouted in unison, their voices ringing out stronger than before. As new energy filled the room, Maria felt the weight lift off her shoulders. It was only the beginning. They had a battle to fight, a truth to unveil. But was the evidence truly strong enough to change their fate, or did it simply fuel Hector's attack? As she prepared to dive deeper into the evidence, a sudden realization swept over her. What if there was something more? What if the documents themselves weren't the full story? Her breath caught. What exactly had she overlooked? And as she stood in front of the crowd, a collective spirit igniting with her dread and excitement collided within her, whispering the question, what was she really capable of uncovering? Maria's thoughts raced as she locked eyes with Hector, whose confidence had dimmed but not vanished. She could sense the moment hanging in the air, where everything could tilt in their favor or collapse under pressure. The crowd's shouts were like a drumbeat behind her, urging her to push forward, to give them more than just paperwork. What I have is just the beginning, she said, her voice steadying. We've uncovered a series of claims, a pattern of corruption that goes beyond just negligence. She took a deep breath. This isn't just about the documents you have in front of you. This is about us, taking back everything that was taken from us. Hector scoffed, crossing his arms defiantly. Do you really think that they care about your little show? They'll bury you and everyone with you. But there was strength in the murmurs that ebbed and flowed. A lady in the front, her scarf wrapped tightly around her neck, stepped up. We're not going anywhere, Hector, she challenged, her voice firm. The crowd surged behind her, every face echoing her resolve. Maria's heart swelled with gratitude. She felt a bond, a community rallying together. These papers show how this wasn't an accident. We weren't just statistics, they kept us down on purpose. She paced the front, locking eyes with several individuals in the crowd. And it's time we hold them accountable. Another voice piped up, a man with a weathered face. What do you want, Maria? What do we do now? No turning back, she said, feeling the weight of honesty hanging between them. We challenge them. Not just here, in this room. We need to get this to the press, to our neighbors, to tell everyone what this firm has been doing under the cover of law. The excitement in the crowd surged as she painted the plan before them, voices blending in agreement, chants of strength rising. This isn't just a fight for our homes. Their actions have consequences far beyond what we can see. They've taken our peace of mind, our trust. They must pay for what they've done. Hector stepped forward, his voice a bitter laugh. You think you can just waltz into the media and get your story told? You think they'll listen to you? You have nothing. With each word that fell from his lips, Maria could feel pieces of her plan clicking into place. What if I tell you that people have seen those documents? What if I made sure the media gets their hands on them? Gasps filled the air as her words sunk in, unraveling tendrils of doubt that had tangled around them. What do you mean? Someone asked, a flicker of curiosity igniting. I was contacted by someone, she said deliberately, scanning the crowd, gauging their reactions. Someone who knows everything. They have the connections. They believe in us. Are you sure? Another voice questioned, fraught with caution. Can we trust them, Maria? A flicker of recognition shone in her chest. I believe we can. But I need your help. I need your voices to echo with mine. Suddenly, the weight of the challenge pushed into the forefront of her mind. Was she stepping into a trap? But then she saw the spark in the crowd's eyes. It ignited every part of her. Will you let me lead you? Will you help us create a wave of change? The energy shifted again. This felt different, not just about evidence, but about transformation, about gathering strength. Yes, they roared. The harmony of their voices sent shivers down her spine, filled with passion and resolve. But deep down, Fear lingered, whispering its doubts. The fight was just beginning, and Hector was no quitter. What if they faced retaliation? What if the truth never found its way to light? As she stood in their midst, Maria felt fierce pride swelling against that silence, the uncertainty mingling with an overpowering sense of possibility. What if they could expose the truth? What if the same documents that Hector dismissed could bring them victory? And just as excitement filled the air, a distant siren broke the moment, pulling them sharply back into reality. Was someone onto them? With a sudden chill running down her back, Maria turned to the crowd and asked, "Are you ready for whatever comes next?" The answer was clear, but the stakes were higher than ever. What would unfold in the hours to come? Would they stand firm against the storm ahead? The sound of the siren grew louder, puncturing the hope that had filled the air moments before. Maria felt the tension ripple through the crowd, faces reflecting a mix of determination and unease. She scanned the crowd, looking for familiar faces, grounding herself in their collective resolve. "Stay calm," she urged, raising her hands, gathering their attention. "We need to remain focused. They can't intimidate us." Hector stepped back, annoyance flashing across his face. "You're dreaming if you think this will end well," he sneered, but the voices around him weren't silenced. They began to chant, a deliberate rhythm of unity building. "We stand together. We stand together." Maria could feel the pulse of the crowd behind her. Each cheer pumped adrenaline into her veins. This was at the moment they all felt the urgency of change. No longer mere victims in the shadows, they were now a force to be reckoned with. As the crowd rallied, Maria's mind raced with the next steps. "We need to create a plan, but let us not draw attention to ourselves just yet. We can organize later," she said, keeping her voice steady despite the rising panic around them. A familiar face from the crowd stepped forward. It was Lucas, a neighbor she'd known for years. An earnest man with stories of struggle etched in the lines of his face. "Do you really think we can push back against them? What if they retaliate?" "This isn't just about us looking for justice," Maria responded, trying to soften the fear in his eyes. "It's bigger than just what they did to us. It's about everyone who's been wronged, who's been made to feel small by the law because they assume we will stay silent." Lucas nodded slowly, determination starting to flicker in his gaze. "So what's the first step? How do we get these documents to the press?" Maria felt a rush of ideas tumble into her mind. "I have a contact, someone who's been following this case closely. They can help us connect the dots with the media, but we need to be careful. If they catch wind of what we're doing, what?" Hector interjected, a sly grin on his face. "You think they don't already know? You're just delaying the inevitable, Maria." She met his challenging gaze head-on. "Or maybe this will be the beginning of the end for people like you. The longer we wait to act, the stronger they'll become, and we lose our chance. We have the evidence. They can't hide anymore." The crowd erupted into cheers once more, emboldened by her words. The sirens still wailed, but they became a background noise, a call to action instead of fear. Maria called for a moment of silence, the energy of their voices swirling around her. "Let us take a moment to breathe," she said, "to remember why we're doing this. This fight is for our families, our homes, our hope." Her words wrapped around them like a protective blanket, igniting sparks of courage. The doubts in the crowd began to dissipate, if only temporarily. But deep within Maria, doubt still festered. She knew Hector wouldn't stay quiet for long. He thrived on finding weaknesses and exploiting fear. With every promise she made to the crowd, a nagging worry clawed at her heart. Was she putting them in danger? A visible uncertainty settled over her as they stood together, the weight of their shared experience binding them. They needed to act, but she couldn't ignore the potential fallout that may come from their bold move. As the last chant faded into an uneasy hush, Maria felt the pressing urgency of the moment. "Tonight, I'll meet with my contact," she announced. "By tomorrow, we could be ready to take this to the press. They need to know what's really going on." But just when she was ready to spark their hope into action, a flash of blue lights spilled across the gathering, illuminating faces filled with concern and confusion. She swallowed hard, heart thumping. What would the arrival of the police mean for this fragile movement they were trying to forge? Would they stand their ground or scatter? As the officers stepped closer, Maria knew the path ahead was more dangerous than ever. Would they face the storm together, or was this the beginning of their end? With determination etched on her face, she stepped forward, ready to stand her ground. Would her bravery ignite theirs even further, or would fear unravel everything they had worked toward? The police officers halted a few feet away, their uniforms stark against the night. The blue lights flickered rhythmically, creating an eerie dance of shadows on the pavement. Maria could feel her heart race, an invisible pulse echoing the tightness in the air. The crowd shifted behind her, their murmurs growing louder, tinged with uncertainty. "Stay strong," she shouted, trying to drown out the panic that threatened to take over. "We're not here to cause trouble. We're here to stand for what's right." The officers exchanged glances, assessing the gathering like hawks sizing up their prey. Maria's throat felt dry. She had to find a way to keep the fear from spreading. "We're citizens demanding accountability. We want transparency." Her voice rang out, a clarion call that echoed in the uncertain night. One officer, a tall man with a stern expression, stepped forward. "This is considered an unlawful assembly. You need to disperse." His voice was firm, but it held a hint of confusion. Perhaps he didn't expect this many people to stand together. Hector stood off to the side, arms crossed, his earlier skepticism replaced by interest. "Is that what you call standing up for ourselves? An unlawful assembly?" he challenged, stepping into the fray, seemingly fearless. "Enough," Maria interjected, sensing the moment slipping. "Everyone, we're united here. I just want to talk." Her heart raced as she pleaded with the officers, hoping they could hear her over the hum of uncertainty rising from the crowd. The officer's gaze softened, if only for a moment. "Look, I understand your frustration, but we can't allow this to escalate. I need you all to move along." A whisper rippled through the crowd. "They don't care about us, they'll just send us home." Maria could see defeat beginning to seep into their resolve. "Stop," she yelled, catching their attention once more. "Look at us. We are all here for a reason. No one deserves to be silenced. If we back down now, nothing will change. They may have badges, but we have the truth." The officers hesitated, and Maria saw a flicker of emotion cross their faces. Was it empathy? Unsure of how to proceed, they exchanged silent conversations. Maria seized the moment. "Let us talk to you about what has been happening. We have proof stories that need to be heard." The words flowed from her, each syllable dripping with urgency. The crowd, hearing her passionate call, began to chant again. "We stand together. We stand together." They were ignited by her bravery, feeding off her hope. Yet even as their voices rose, Maria felt the tension from the officers. They could turn hostile at any moment. Hector, emboldened, stepped forward. "You can't just silence us because it's easier for you." Taking a deep breath, Maria realized this was more than just a fight against corruption. It was a battle for their dignity as a community. This moment, raw and electrified, was not just for them but for future generations watching this unfold. "Please, listen to us," she pleaded, desperation lacing her voice. "If you treat us as threats, you're only pushing us back. We just want a chance to be heard." The atmosphere shifted. The officers didn't seem ready to pounce. Instead, they stood their ground, uncertain. Maria hoped she could harness that uncertainty, maybe, just maybe. It was the crack in the facade they could exploit. Just then, an unmistakable sound drifted in from down the street, a rumble of engines. More police cars. The arrival of reinforcements threatened to send the crowd scattering. Maria's mind raced. "We need to decide now, everyone. Are we retreating, or are we here to stand together for our rights?" The gathered faces radiated fear and defiance, but Maria could see determination brewing. "I say we stand," shouted Lucas, igniting a spark. Another voice rose passionately. "We deserve better." The resolution rippled through the crowd like a wildfire, and Maria prepared to stand firm. But uncertainty still gnawed at her. If reinforcements were coming, what would happen next? She gripped the banner in her hands. No turning back now, but what she didn't expect was the silhouette of a familiar figure emerging among the police, a figure familiar to both her and Hector, ready to change the game forever. Maria's heart skipped a beat as she squinted through the flashing lights, searching for the figure that had emerged. As the shadows shifted, she felt a surge of recognition. It was Elena, an old friend whose gentle spirit and fierce intelligence had made a lasting impression on her. The crowd murmured in hesitant curiosity, eyes darting between the officers, and the woman striding confidently toward them. "Wait, is that Elena?" Hector whispered, stepping closer to Maria, who felt a rush of hope mixed with anxiety. If anyone could speak to the officers and bridge the gap, it was Elena. Yet there was also the fear of how the police would react to her presence. "Elena, what are you doing here?" Maria called out, her voice barely cutting through the noise. Elena paused, her gaze sweeping over the gathering crowd. "I was nearby and heard the commotion," she replied, her voice steady and assured. "I knew I had to come." The officers seemed to tense at her arrival, but Maria could sense a different energy in Elena's demeanor. She moved forward, taking a position beside Maria, ready to take command. "Listen," Elena began, and the crowd fell silent, drawn in by her natural authority. "I am deeply aware of the issues that have brought you all here tonight. What you are fighting for is not just a cause, it's a fundamental right. You deserve to be heard, and there are many of us who will stand with you." Maria felt a swell of determination. It was invigorating to see someone like Elena standing beside her. "We're here because we want change," she shouted, and the crowd roared in agreement. Elena turned to the police, her expression unwavering. "Instead of treating this as a threat, why not take a moment to listen? Each of us has a story that matters. Each of us bears the weight of injustice." The lead officer shifted uneasily, still hesitant but visibly impacted. Maria saw a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes, a crack in the wall that separated them. For the first time, the police seemed less like enforcers and more like human beings caught in the middle of a storm. "Let us talk about real solutions," Elena continued, "solutions that can stitch this community together instead of tearing it apart." The sound of sirens wailed louder as reinforcements pulled closer. The blood surged in Maria's veins. There was no turning back. She felt the crowd close around her, united under the banner of hope. "Let us share our stories," Hector shouted, stepping forward once more. "We have names and faces of those who have suffered. Give us a chance to be heard." The crowd erupted again, echoing their support. Maria felt the weight of their shared anger and frustration mixed with a flicker of something powerful courage. But just as tension peaked, another group of officers entered the scene. The pressure crackled in the air. Where one officer hesitated, the newcomers looked ready for confrontation. "Is this really how it's going to end?" Maria asked aloud. With fear? Suddenly, one of the new officers stepped forward, eyes locked on Elena. "Are you not a lawyer?" The question hung heavy in the air. The crowd collectively held its breath. Elena looked back with calm resolve. "Yes, and I'm here to advocate for what's right." As her words settled with gravity, Maria's heart beat wildly. Elena's presence could shift everything, but how much power did she truly hold? Would it be enough to make the officers listen? Before Maria could ponder further, the lead officer raised a hand, silencing both the crowd and the new arrivals, a pivotal moment, suspended in time. "Let us hear them out," he finally said, glancing from Elena to Maria. A murmur of disbelief rippled across the crowd. Could this be the opening they desperately needed? Maria held her breath, a mix of exhilaration and dread coursing through her. Yet, as Elena stepped forward, Maria wondered if they were truly prepared for what lay ahead. Would they finally be heard, or would it all come crashing down? "What is your story?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as they all leaned in. The night felt thick with possibility. Maria's heart raced as she stood quietly alongside Elena, her breath caught in her throat. The crowd, now holding its collective breath, was a living entity brimming with hope, apprehension, and determination. She saw familiar faces. Every single one carried the weight of shared struggles and battles fought in silence. Elena turned to Maria, her voice steady and powerful. "We need to share our experiences," she said firmly, inviting those among them to speak out. "This is not just a gathering, it's a platform. We can show them our truth, our strength." That call to action pierced through the tension. Maria looked around, eyes meeting those who had once doubted but now began to straighten their spines. Lucas stepped forward first. "They threatened my family every month when I couldn't pay rent because they kept raising the prices without warning," he said, his voice shaky but resolute. "I felt small because I couldn't fight back, but today, I choose to stand." Cheers erupted from the crowd, feeding like a flame on the dry wood around them. One by one, others began to speak of their own struggles, stories of loss, resilience, and the yearning for respect. A single mother shared the hardship of balancing jobs to care for her children. A retired factory worker relayed tales of being dismissed when seeking workers' rights. And a young man spoke of a friend losing their home due to unfair treatment, all of them encapsulating experiences that connected them deeply. Maria listened intently, clenching her fists in excitement. Each word shared was a stitch pulling together the fabric of their community, reinforcing a united front that Hector could not expect. She sensed the energy shifting. The police officer's expressions slowly began to soften. Elena stepped confidently before the officers, projecting a calm authority. These stories matter. We are people, and we deserve a fair chance, she asserted. Let this be the start of an open dialogue. Hector scoffed from the back, but even he seemed taken aback by the swell of unity and resolve. What is this going to do? You think feelings will change the law? He sneered. Oh, but they do, Elena shot back, unyielding. Connection can influence change more than you know. With that, a ripple of agreement swept through the crowd. Encouragement surged onward, louder now, voices rising, reverberating against the night sky. Maria realized she was not merely witness to their transformation. She was a part of it. Let us confront the issues. Someone yelled, and others echoed that sentiment, a wave of fervor rushing forth. The determination was electric, each member contributing to this collective fight. As the chants echoed, Maria could feel tears welling up in her eyes. For too long, they had been silenced. Here, together, they clawed their way out of invisibility. She reached for Elena's hand, who squeezed back, a silent promise that they would fight together. Our community isn't just about the individual stories. It's about standing up against those who think they can tear us down, Maria shouted, her voice cutting through the afternoon air like a knife slicing through the shadows. The officers, seemingly caught off guard, exchanged glances again. Maria seized the moment. We deserve respect. We deserve to be heard. This isn't just a small-town problem, it's bigger than any one of us. It's a reminder that power can be held, not just by the few, but by us all when we stand united. Suddenly, a figure stepped up next to Maria, one of her children, Mia, holding her little brother's hand, defiance filling every crease in her brow. My mom is strong, Mia exclaimed, her voice unwavering. She fights for us, and we want to fight for everyone. Gasps filled the air, but then cheers followed, powerful and uplifting. Maria's heart swelled, bursting with pride and love. Here was her daughter, gaining the courage she had felt for so long, stepping into the light just as she had. Taking Mia's small hand, Maria raised it to the sky. This fight is for our families, for our kids. Every voice blended, shouting in unison a heartwarming symphony of strength. The lead officer shifted, finally nodding to his team. All right, tell me what you want. We can arrange a meeting. Elena stepped forward, her presence commanding the space. We want transparency. We want to hold those individuals accountable. We need a forum where each story matters, where we can open discussions about fairness. Maria held her breath, anxiety creasing her forehead. Yet against all odds, moments within the crowd started to shift. We can do this, she thought, and with each passing second, the tension tucked deep into her heart faded away. The sirens that had heralded doubt had now turned into verification. A glimmer of possibility danced before them, brighter and more radiant than anything they had envisioned just moments before. With words, hope was ignited, transforming fear into resilience. The crowd surged ahead, voices mingling with laughter and tears of relief. Yes, they were going to stand together now and always. Maria could finally breathe. Then, the lead officer gestured for a quiet signal, ushering them into an uncharted territory of possibility. Closer than ever, they were about to challenge the established norms, and the journey to change was set in motion. With her heart full, Maria couldn't help but believe. Together, they had risen. Together, they would not falter again. And as the crowd began to disperse, filled with hope and plans for a brighter future, one thought echoed louder than any other: this was their moment. Maria knew they had stepped into their power, and with determination and courage, they would never go back. Fueled by that fire, she whispered to herself, "We're just getting started. Don't forget, you need to subscribe now to stay in touch for the next part of this thrilling journey unfolding." This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now. It feeds the algorithm and rally behind our stories. You need to share your reactions in the comments. What did this moment mean to you? And for those who need inspiration, don't wait not even one more second to share this with at least 5 friends. They deserve to witness this transformation too.